We are going to record today. So I want to welcome you to the Oklahoma Parent Center weekly deep dive into the 6 principles of the federal special education law called the Individuals with Disabilities Education Law. My name is Jennifer Dority, and I'm a parent-child advocate with the Oklahoma Parent Center. And I'd like to introduce you my co-host, Amy Sinar, also an advocate at the Parent Center.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we're going to start with a little housekeeping today. So if you don't mind, if you can remember to mute yourself, we want to protect your family's privacy. So if you have a sensitive question, we're going to ask that you please feel free to call us at the 877 number we're providing at the end of the training. And then we're going to request that you answer a few 6 poll questions for us before we go too far and discuss too many things there at the end so that we can gather some information to kind of help us to help you better next time. So with that being said, we'll move on to the next slide. So we want to tell you a little bit about OPC. So we're a nonprofit agency and we're the only statewide federally funded and state-funded parent training and information center here in Oklahoma. And we help families who have children with the full range of disabilities from birth to 26. So we assist biological parents, foster parents, grandparents, and service providers. And our training and resources are all free to families and professionals like you all. So please note that there are over 100 parent training centers in the United States, and the OPC staff will consist of parents or siblings with disabilities and self-advocates. So over the next 30 minutes, we would like to discuss with you what is an appropriate evaluation as defined by IDEA, and then evaluation requirements, eligibility, common mistakes to watch for, and then we want you to have the big picture of our takeaway, and then finally we'll discuss our poll questions and our final discussion.
Give me a minute, sorry.
That's okay, no problem. We're good, okay. So in the chat box, you'll find the link to IDEA, which goes into great detail that'll regard the appropriate evaluation procedures. We wanted to share that with you in case you want to dig a little deeper later. So right now we're going to talk about the 2 types of evaluations. So there's an initial evaluation, and we want you to know what the initial evaluation means. So it's the first step to collecting the detailed information to help the child learn if there's a suspected disability. So a few things to remember about an initial evaluation are that parents must make a formal request in writing if they suspect a disability. And then once the evaluation has been agreed upon, the parent must sign a parental consent before the evaluation can take place with the school district. So then that gives the school district 45 days to review that data that's collected. If the student meets eligibility for the special education related services, the next step would be to develop the individual education program known as the IEP. So then we'll talk about the second type of evaluation, which is called the re-evaluation. So per IDEA, a child who receives special education services must be reevaluated at least once every 3 years. However, we want you to know that if the parent and the team both agree, a reevaluation can occur no more than once every year. So let's give you an example. So a child has been diagnosed with another form of disability. Oftentimes, a parent will provide the new information regarding their child along with the documentation, and this would be a good time to kind of utilize some of our student snapshots that we'll put into the chat box for you. And so this will be where the team needs to determine if the disability impacts the student's IEP goals and objectives, accommodations, and related services. Now, the student snapshot is a document that I'm not sure if we tried to find on our website, but we weren't able to locate it today. So we're just going to put it into the snap for you in the chat box. And that way you can look a little further into that as well. So on the next slide, we're gonna talk to you about some of the essential components. I might have got way ahead of myself. Did I, Amy? Maybe not. Okay, no, I'm good. Okay. I'm a quick talker because I get nervous doing all these trainings online still, so bear with me. So when I get a little better at it, we'll be able to tell a difference later. I tell you, one of the things that I recorded, I couldn't quit blinking from just nerves of recording myself. So we're going to keep going. So the essential components of the evaluation must include must be conducted, in the child's native language or other means of communication, such as Spanish, Braille, or sign language, or etc. And then evaluations may not discriminate against the child based on disability, race, culture, or gender, and use a variety of assessment and tools and strategies to gather the relevant functional, developmental, and academic information to determine if the child is indeed a child with a disability written under IDEA. So it's important to note that the formal and informal tests are equally important when determining that eligibility. So an example of a formal evaluations are based on scientific evidence and offer consistent results. Another example of informal results of the evaluations would be observation and classwork. So the individuals who administer the evaluations must be qualified examiners. So for example, like the school psychologist or psychometrist. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about some eligibility questions. So once the data has been collected in both initial and reevaluations, the teams will review the multidisciplinary evaluation and eligibility group summaries, also known as the MEEGS document. So think of the eligibility determination as a two-part process, okay? So step one, the student must be determined to have one or more of the 14 disabilities listed in IDEA. And then step two, the student must, as a result of that disability, need special education to make that progress in school and benefit from the general education program. And I believe we were going to put in the chat box for you a link to those 13 categories.
Doing it right now.
Okay, great. And then we're going to talk to you a little bit about mistakes and takeaways. Okay, and we like to call them blunders. So some of those blunders would be an unidentified student, maybe undiagnosed dyslexia or a language barrier. Another one of those blunders could be that the school failed to include the parents, because making team decisions without the parent input or the uninformed parent who does not know their rights under IDEA, it's a common mistake. Score reporting without interpretation, again, is another reason why we say that, for example, the school psychologist or psychometrist need to be available, because we count on those people to help us with the related services providers to explain the collected evidence of the data. So the team can make informed decisions regarding your child's IEP and related services. So then there's communication. So we want to make sure parents must make the evaluation request in writing. And so we will also include some parent sample letters in our link for you to kind of help you get started on how to write those letters to address the team. Once the team has been addressed and you have signed your consent form for the testing, they have 45 school days by law once the parent signs consent. Is everybody understanding everything okay, or have any questions? Okay. So the nitty gritty of our takeaways today are that we want you to realize that evaluation's purpose is determined for eligibility for special education services and to help develop an educational plan or IEP that meets the individual needs of your child to help them make progress in an educational classroom. So before we move to question and answer sections of our presentation, we'd like for you to take time for just a couple seconds just to complete the couple poll questions for us. So we'll give you just a couple of minutes to do that. We appreciate you filling that out and taking the time. That information is super important to us.
Hopefully everyone can see the poll.
I can see it. I think everybody probably can.
Yeah, I can see it. At first I was looking for it, but it's in the chat section, so I have the poll here. We're good.
Okay, we've got about 30 more seconds, then we'll end that poll.
Don't do it.
We'll give you a few more minutes. We won't rush anybody. We've got plenty of time.
That was just 6 questions, right? My computer's not freezing, is it?
No,
No.
it's just the 6.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Has everybody
So-
had a chance to get that done?
Right.
Okay, we will end the poll now.
So now that Jennifer's had an opportunity to run through this, this down and dirty kind of overview of the appropriate evaluation, one of the 6 principles of IDEA, now's the time to ask some in-depth questions. I've reset the PowerPoint again to kind of start us at the beginning again, kind of run through that information just so I learn better when I see things a couple of times. And I think it would be a great opportunity for us to revisit some things and hopefully clarify some information that might be, you might need a little bit more help and allow us to explain a little bit more. So now's the time to unmute yourself, and we would love to have some interaction.
I'm going to pause the recording now, so that way
Thank you.
everyone can feel free to speak as they'd like.